Hey guys, Andy here from Mediocre Hobbies coming at you with another Chaos Space Marine-ish video. So, Archvillain Games has very kindly sponsored today's video, and as such, I have chosen a beautiful model from their second month of their sci-fi range of miniatures. That's right, Archvillain Games. If you are aware of them, you know they produce some of the most beautiful 3D printed files for fantasy anywhere on the internet, have now turned their hand to the world of science fiction, and this is month 2, the December release of their range of miniatures, which brings some absolutely stunning sculpts. I have chosen this kind of decimator engine style piece. It's definitely very demonic, and I'm working my head around as to what particular set of rules I want to slap to it in order to use it with my Chaos Space Marine Night Lord's army. This is a very cool set of miniatures. If you're curious about what they look like and what Archvillain Games can do when they turn their hand to science fiction, there will be links to all of those bits and pieces below. So I recommend you go down and give them a click and check them out. Thank you once again, Archvillain, for sponsoring today's video. Let's get into it. And this is half of the demonic engine I've decided to do for today's video. This collaboration could not have come at a better time, as I've recently realized that my Night Lord's army is sorely lacking in armor. So I've actually decided to do a couple of videos based around adding them to the army. And when I had the opportunity to pick some of the Archvillain Games 3D files, this was one of the ones that stood out to me the most, and I grabbed it. There's also some stunning models in there that could stand in for some kind of Leviathans or Contemptors or stuff like that. Definitely check out the links below for all the different sculpts. There's some pretty spectacular things. So it's sprayed the model black, and then I went in with my traditional method of doing armor, which is the stippling technique, using the Artist Opus Series D dry brushes, and I started with Night Lord's blue. This is going to be 3 stages of stippling, quick and easy and effective across all of the flat armor panels of this miniature to give that really nice blue, really dark blue scheme that Night Lords are famous for, but actually giving quite a lot of depth to the scheme. This model actually has another part to it, which is like a missile pod that connects to the back. For the purposes of what I wanted to use it for, I decided to leave it off, but it is actually a really nice piece. So I may print it off and glue it on at a later stage. After the Night Lord's blue was applied, I then moved up to Cantor blue. And basically that's what you want to do with a technique like this with the stippling, is you basically want to go for very subtle color changes, going from incredibly dark blue up to kind of the next shade up to, you're not trying to go to a really bright blue as they are Night Lords, they're supposed to be dark. And you're not trying to cover the entire panel. You're supposed to get as much coverage as you can on the first coat, but then after that, you can leave a lot of the darkness behind. As this dries, it will dry a lot darker. And you will not tell kind of which bits you did or didn't hit with the stipple. It's just going to be this really beautiful fade. It's one of the things trying to make a darker paint scheme, especially their armor, look interesting. Not try to have it be like a flat color, make it look like a toy. So here it is with the second coat of blue applied. And from here, we're going to jump up to Macragge blue for the final little stippling highlight for that. A quick and easy step, like I said. I'm going to be using that for basically all my armor videos moving forward. So hopefully you'll check out those videos when they come out and as they come out. So the Macragge blue, as you see, I'm going quite light, and I'm going around the main kind of higher areas, flat pieces. And leaving anywhere where there are nooks and crannies, anywhere the light isn't going to get to, I'm going to leave it the darker blue scheme. This shouldn't take long at all. I'd say less than 5 minutes of actual brushwork to get the basic armor color on this model. Quite a sizable model. I think that's quite a good time frame. You can really see the fade now between all the different armor panels of the blue. Like I said, I've fallen victim to the idea of, Blood Angel's tank is red and you give it this big solid coat of red paint. and then you're trying to make it have like shadows and a bit of depth and a bit of intrigue, and it's an incredibly difficult thing to try and add in after you've already done a solid block color. So that's why I have adopted this kind of painting style for vehicles. Lead belcher was then used for all of the metallic parts. So there's a bunch of railings, there's kind of bits that protect the gears, there's some pistons, the actual cannons themselves mounted to the upper section. So basically just go around, try and find all of the bits that you want to do in metallic, and then hit them with a base coat of lead belcher. At least that's what I did. As you can see, there's kind of like some spilling organs and stuff out the side of this. I only really paid attention to those as I started painting. And as I started painting, I kind of wanted to print out another one of these whole things and add it into my Death Guard army. I could see it in the Death Guard scheme as clear as day, and that would also be a very cool looking defiler or whatever I decide to use it for. Plague Burst Crawler maybe. It's Plague Spewers out the top. Being careful now with the silver as I'm painting around the blue details on the cannons that I do not want to paint over. Obviously I've super glued this thing to a base and then used the base to connect it to the painting handle. Just for ease of for painting, I don't want to be scuffing this thing or dropping it on the desk or anything like that. And this is a way of protecting it. I'm still yet to decide whether or not I want to give this miniature a base. Like the Defiler in 40k, it might not need a base. Although I do like the look of the base miniature, it really helps to tie into the rest of the army. So it's another question for the comments below if you think this thing needs a base. And what do you think I should do for that base? Okay, with all of the metallics applied, it's time to move over to Black Templar contrast. And this is where we are going to kind of re-solidify those shadows, any of those bits that connect parts together, any of those kind of soft seal bits, joints that we want to darken up a little bit. We're going to hit that with Black Templar contrast. Just not leave any of that scattered blue, which maybe shouldn't have gotten there. The same thing with the upper half of this miniature. There's lots of like wiring and cabling and stuff around the waist and connecting the head to the torso. And we're just going to hit that with a bit of Black Templar contrast. Just add that separation, especially around the face as well. I like to think that he has kind of an armored forehead down to maybe the tops of the cheeks, but the lower jaw on this model seems to be made of that more kind of softer material. So I'm just going to hit it with that. Okay, moving back to the main body, it's time to knock out some of the other colors. So we're going to start with Carrick Stone, and that's going to lock in the first coat of bone. This has a skeleton draped across the front of the hull, and then lots of the chains coming down from its drive sections have skulls hanging off them. I actually decided to go much more morbid with these pieces later on in the painting scheme, as I remembered that it's a Night Lord's vehicle, so these are probably much fresher kills than maybe some other Chaos Legions might show off and display. So I'll have a little bit of fun with Blood for the Blood God later on. Snakebite leather contrast was then used to switch some of the silvers to some brass. This is a trick that I think I learned when contrast first came out and had forgotten about, and then a good friend of mine, Mr. Chin, reminded me of it in it's actually an upcoming video to do it, so I must remember to keep that in my arsenal of painting tips and tricks and use it more often, especially as Chaos models are big fans of kind of brasses and coppers. So I made a few select choices on which metallic parts I think should shift to the kind of bronze style, and then went with that. Especially some of the more spiky details, which are renowned Chaos pieces. Null oil was then applied to all of the other metallic parts on the model. So the kind of ammo cases that are on the side, railings, chains, all those bits and pieces. I keep referring this thing as a Chaos Night Lords thing, but that's just what it is in my head. Obviously, this is based for a generic science fiction style piece from Archvillain Games, and you can use it for any of your kind of miniature agnostic games or any sci-fi setting you want. A D&D style game. Role play is what I meant to say, but D&D came out first. But then, of course, like I said, Battle Rune is a rules system that Archvillain Games is developing themselves, and that will be using these miniatures to play. So, 2 birds, 1 stone. As I mainly play 40k on the channel these days, I like finding uses for my 3D printed models in armies that I already have existing. I then went back to Lead Belcher and used this to dry brush on basically the entire surface. I want to catch those edges really lightly, just add a little bit of chipping and weathering damage. As you can see, these drive sections kind of rotate and move around. They're kind of like an all-terrain vehicle. So you can imagine this thing kind of gets scratched and scuffed and bashed as it goes through ruined city streets or up over dunes or through jungles or wherever it's fighting. It's going to be kind of plowing forward with its heavy weapons. So I don't want to go overboard. I just want to add a little bit of scuff and scratch damage. So like I said, selective dry brushing with silver is a great way of adding this to the miniature. And after that has been applied, it's time to go on to the lightning, which is of course notoriously arcing across most Night Lord armor. So I'm just going to apply some very, very quick and easy to do lightning bolts on some of the selected flat panels. And as you can see, I'm not very good at freehanding, so I've developed a system to give myself some very easy to achieve looking lightning bolts. They're not going to win any competitions, but they definitely do the job. So I start with Celestial Grey, and I just do some arcing patterns across any of the flat surface that I want to do. My lightning is, like I said, very simple. It's usually one squiggly long line which has 1 or 2 arcs off the side of it, and that is it. There's also some runes stamped into the hull of this vehicle, which really suits that demonic fashion, and we're just going to fill those little divots with Ulthuan Grey. So when we do the lightning effect, the next coat on the lightning, we can just fill those in, and it works a treat as well. We're also going to use the Ulthuan Grey on any lenses and the eyes of this miniature. We're basically going to create everything that's glowing is going to be the same contrast paint is going to hit it, which we're going to go for Talazar Blue. It really suits the lightning effect, and we're just going to go over the lightning with this. As you can see, it already goes from these kind of silly looking white stripes to that kind of pulsing energy that you would get from a lightning strike. There's some debate among Night Lords fans as to whether or not the lightning is a painted on part of the miniature or whether there's literally arcs of lightning going across the whole of their armor. I think, me personally, it's probably more along the lines of a painted thing, as these guys are stealth specialists. I don't know how you're going to hide in the shadow if your armor is rippling with electricity, but there has been some artwork to the contrary, so we're not really quite sure. Here's the kind of glowing orb in the center of his chest and his eyes, which we are of course going to go over with the Talazar Blue as well, which gives a very simple, quick and effective glowing technique. And like I said, you can see the runes running down both of the sides of the top panel of the armor. Like I said, I'm just going to hit them with Talazar Blue as well. And that's going to make them jump out without standing out too much. The skull that I painted on the hull, like I said, I'm going to go for a more morbid Night Lord's impression with that. So I'm going to cover that with Blood for the Blood God, as if this is kind of like a freshly skinned cadaver slapped on top of the armor, which definitely suits Night Lords. No Night Lords player is in contention as to what that should be. I also covered all of the skulls and the chains around the miniature with the same thing, as if they are literally freshly severed skulls. I then moved on to some AK pigment powder to add a little bit extra detail in all the crevices, nooks and crannies. I really do like to weather down some tanks and vehicles. The pristine look on tanks really doesn't do it for me. Anything that can help me kind of stop seeing them as toys and more as these horrible war machines stomping around battlefields, I will do. So weathering powders usually gets added to my miniatures, whether it be tracks or in all the nooks and crannies, anywhere that dust would settle on these kind of things. And obviously on the drive section of this, and all the gears, any flat surfaces around the wheels are going to get a little coat of pigment powder. And with that, I would call this miniature complete. I'm going to snap the top bit off of the base that I super glued it to, and super glue it to the bottom half, the drivetrain section of this beast. And that will finish off this piece nicely. Before anyone asks in the comments, I actually don't use anything to adhere my pigments to the model. I just leave it as is. Some bits sometimes rub off, but not too bad. And a model that doesn't have a base, that may be more of an issue. That's another reason that I may be required to add it to a base. But like I said, as a finished result, I actually really like this beast of a thing. It suits my Night Lords down to the ground, and I can't wait to see it field in a battle report next to them. As for the rules I should use for that, I'm still not 100% sure. Okay guys, and there we have it. One Night Lord's Daemon engine ready to see the battlefield alongside my Legionnaires. If you guys have any ideas as to what set of rules suit this miniature the best, please put in the comments below. I would really like some guidance and advice on this. Once again, a big thank you to Archvillain for supporting today's video. Like I said, check out their science fiction line. There will be links to that in the comments below. And remember that Archvillain is in fact starting up their own sci-fi miniature rules range with Battle Room. So that will be coming out in the near future, where you will be able to use all of these fantastic sci-fi bundles in their self-contained game. If you guys enjoyed the video, make sure you give it a like. If for some crazy reason you're not already subscribed to my channel, it would mean the world to me if you took 2 seconds out of your day and hit that subscribe button. And if you want to help me make bigger and crazier videos and grow this channel to the heights that I'm hoping to achieve, there's links to things like my Patreon below, which will give you access to a private Discord server and a host of other benefits. Thank you guys so much for watching the end of the video. I'll catch you in the next one.